Good morning. We're going to be working with some less popular items, but there's no reason for them to be less popular. If you eat meat, I would consider that it's important to eat stuff like this if you're ethically involved in the consumption of the meat. Trotters, tails, and a pig's head. We're going to be making head cheese and pied de cochon, and doing a little bit of nose to tail butchery. So I'm just going to start out by getting some cold water into this large pot, and we're going to get the trotters in there. You want to start out with cold water. I'm going to put probably about 2 tablespoons worth of sea salt. Should be enough. It's just supposed to aid in the extraction of all the gelatins. I'm going to be simmering this for a bit, not much to see. I'm going to add some bay leaf, a little bit of onion, some celery, dry thyme, and cloves. And now we're going to be processing the tails. So it's the actual tail, which is really rich in gelatin, but as you can see, you've got a lot of the, this is the bone structure at the base of the spine, and then you got the tail. Just cut through. Main idea here is we're going to be getting all of the good gelatin and all this good stock related stuff out of this by putting it in the pot with the trotters, but this we're going to set aside for other preparations. You don't have to waste anything. I mean, really, these are probably some of the things that you think are the most nasty, and they make some of the most wonderful flavors. We've got the tails trimmed, and this is sort of that little nugget of fat back that's off at the back of the pig. You can render this out as lard, probably be the easiest use, but I find that a lot of times if I'm making sausage out of something like venison or moose, certain things it's just too lean. You can't get enough fat. They don't have a lot of fat on the carcass. The pig's head is thawed out. We're making use of this because we're trying to respect the fact that this animal was alive and was grown for us to be able to consume. One of the great uses that you've got with pig's head is doing something called guanciale. Guanciale would be like a bacon, and it's sort of the jowl, the cheek, this area. I was looking forward to being able to do that preparation here. I can see that the cheeks have actually been cut off. Not a big deal. So we're going to be doing strictly head cheese with this. This could be a little bit disturbing to some people, but to me, you should have the gumption for this if you eat pork chops or barbecue. There's the back. We got the tongue here. Typically right here, you can see the eye and the ear. Right here is this area right here. And typically that gets left on. Not everyone butchers the same, but it is typical to have this additional fat over top of the cheek be still attached. You can see there's a really good musculature, good nugget of meat there. I've taken the time to just free up the tendons just on the inside here and be able to remove the tongue. Remember that this has been scalded, so it's going to have a little bit of, it's losing some fibers. That comes off when you cook it anyways. And then this is going to allow for us to make a nice terrine. I'm going to cure this with pink salt, and we'll get back to brining the head. The tails and the trotters are simmering now in the pot. And we've got the head. This is about 2 liters of hot water. I've got a large pot here. Ooh, it's a big guy. It's a bathtub. And we're going to add half a cup worth of sea salt. Maybe a bit more. So this is just like a ham curing salt. I'm going to put 10 grams. And I start out with hot water just to speed up the process of dissolving it. Next stage is going to be getting the head in there. Let's go ahead and do that. Fill it up right over top of the head and even a little bit past. Get it nice and full of cold water. And this is about 2 to 3 days of being in the salt solution. The pig's head, it's been in brine for 2 days. Got to keep it iced down. I keep some old pop bottles, sanitize them, take the wrappers off them, fill them up with tap water, and then freeze them. And I use them as an ice pack. We're going to dump off the brine. Don't cook it in the brine. You're going to notice it looks quite a bit whiter now. And we're going to get that into the pot. It's about 10 cloves. I put about a tablespoon of dried thyme, about 5 or 6 bay leaves. Peppercorns, probably about 30. I'm going to top this up with cold water and then let it come up to temperature. And this is going to simmer 5-6 hours. It's a long process, but you don't have to do much. The working time just now this morning after taking it out of the brine has been about 2 minutes. Don't add salt, okay? You're not going to need to add salt to this. It's already inside the meat, and we can season afterwards if we need to. Almost forgot to mention, that's the tongue. So this has the brining salt. So we're going to take that out of the curing salt. So that's going to go in with the pig's head. So that's going to come out. It's going to have a very noticeable pinkish hue to it. And when we dice that after trimming it, it's going to actually look like little pieces of really tender ham in and throughout the head cheese. Delectable. It's been cooking for 6 hours. Just set your drink down if you're squeamish. What I'm looking for is all the little musculatures, all the meat, some of the fat that renders out, and here's what you're left with. This is much more palatable. So you see some pale colored stuff here. This is cut up some of the cheek fat. If it's soft and rendered out, and actually take a piece, it should be salted and you should be able to eat it. If it's palatable, it should make really good bits for the head cheese. You want to have 3/4 meat. You want to have about 1/4 fat. Basically what you're making is something that's going to become a cold sausage. You can see some of the bits end up looking much like corned beef or ham. Mixed up inside this mixture is also all of the bits of tongue. There's a good little nugget of tongue. It tastes just like good corned beef. I've got a small tureen. This is all going to get placed into the tureen. Once it's in the tureen, this is from the tails and trotters. Very reduced. I'm going to melt a liter of that, so maybe about to here, and I'm going to allow that to fill in the gaps over top of the tureen. Got the stock here. That's gelatinized. Just need it to melt. You know, get it to where it's warm and more likely to sink into all the gaps. You want to have those all filled in with the gelatin. That's what's going to hold it together. So that is all of the packed and trimmed meat. Any little spots that have discoloration, sometimes you're going to notice almost like a little ball. The eyes, I'm not dealing with those. There's, I think, 4 glands on the inside of the head. They kind of end up looking much like a little marble. You don't want those. They're okay to leave in the pot and cook them out. Once you find that little sphere, you want that gone. And where you find one on one side, there'll be one on the other end. Sometimes they fall out in the processing. Sometimes they fall into the stock pot and they stay there. So if you find little nuggets where it's like a sphere, you don't want that. Everything else in here, I've sort of gone through and taste tested, and I did shake in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Got some whiskey. The rye is going to actually give a nice little elevation. It's going to heighten the flavor, much like putting a little bit of brandy into liver pate. This is a coriander, allspice, black pepper, white pepper, and salt mixture with a little wee bit of nutmeg in it. I'm going to shake that into the liquid. I'm going to put the raw liquor straight into the terrine. It just adjusts, it gives it a little bit of a sharpness. I've got a garlic and thyme vinegar. It's about a tablespoon. We've got the stock. Oh, that looks good. I'm going to take this and just sort of tap it down on your counter because there's a lot of air pockets, and the more you get rid of those pockets, the more it's going to nicely set and just be solid.